Today I'm going to show you how to make the braided fabric necklace. To make this necklace, you will need 6 to 9 14-inch strands of material, 2 large crimp ends, 4 jump rings, 2 4 to 8-inch chain sections, that will depend on how long you want your necklace to be, 1 toggle clasp, and then you'll need a pair of scissors, wire cutters, and needle nose pliers. Let's get started. To begin the braided fabric necklace, what you're going to do is gather your strands together, and you're going to use this large cord crimp or end crimp. They're, depending on where you buy these, they're referred to as different things. You're going to get one of these, and you're basically going to gather all the ends together and crimp them all together with this one crimp. And so don't worry about keeping them separate. So if you had already decided which strands were going to go in which of your 3 sections that you'll have for your braid, don't worry about that right now. Basically, you just want to gather them together, and you want to make sure that the ends are all at the same point. So you don't want them sticking out, you know, like this. And the chain, or those smaller pieces, you really want to make sure that you get those in the center. That way when you put the crimp on, it holds those in place. These bigger pieces of the fabric, like the ribbon, those will, because they're so wide, as long as they get crimped at some place, they should be fine if they're sticking out the side. So get that piece on. And then we've got just a couple more here. And my last one. So now that I've got those all together, I'm going to put the crimp on them. I want to make sure that I've got them. So I might need to adjust it a little. This is really probably the most difficult part of the project, is just making sure that they all get clipped, because you don't want to miss anything there. So it might take a couple tries. So I've got them all there in this crimp. I don't want to miss anything here. The other thing that you can do also is you can take either a rubber band, or you can take some hot glue and secure all the pieces together at the end before you do this. Okay, so now that I've got them there, I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to crimp down the sections. So that it has everything in there. You want to make sure you crimp every bit of it. Okay, so now that I've got everything there, I'm going to take a minute and separate my pieces so that I have 3 sections to begin the braiding process. So when I come back, I'll be ready to show you how to do the braiding. Alright, now that I have the sections here divided into 3, and you can see what I did when I split them apart was I tried to separate the type of material and the colors. So I wouldn't have put all of the chain or rhinestone strands in one bunch, or I also wouldn't have put all of the cream colored strands in one bunch as well. And then I also considered the sizes. So I actually had, instead of doing a multiple of 3, I actually had 8 total strands, and the reason for that is These were all a little smaller. This one strand here is a little larger, so I just went with 2 in this one. And the whole goal is that when you gather your strands or you hold them in a bunch, they should all feel like they have the same thickness. If you've ever braided hair, it's the same way. So one thing that I would do to help, this is an optional component if you want to include this, is to slide a clipboard, or what we use are scrap pieces of cardboard, chipboard, which is like a thicker cardboard, and like a black clip. And we're going to clip this down so that it stays, so that when you're trying to braid, it's not moving all around on me. So in order to do the braiding, let me get my pieces here. Basically, if you've never braided before, you are going to take, let me turn this around this way. You're going to take one side, so you can start with the left or the right, it doesn't matter. So when you are looking at this from your view, I'm going to be taking the left side, so my right, and put it over the middle, okay? And so now I have my 3 strands, and that strand becomes the middle. So now I'm going to take the left side, or your right, and put that over the middle. So now that one has become my middle section. And then again, I'm going to take my right side here over the middle, the left side over the middle, and you would just continue that on. What's important is that as you are braiding, you are tightening this up. You also want to make sure that depending on these particular pieces that you have, the different strands, you want to make sure that the side that you like, so for instance with the crystal or the rhinestone strands, you want to make sure that the rhinestones are facing out and you're not looking at the back of them. So when I bring this side over, and the next one here, the next strand has the rhinestones in it, I would want to make sure that those rhinestones are showing so that they're not turned around backwards. You want to see all of that beautiful bling. So let's put this right side over. And you're just going to continue this on until you have the whole piece braided. And I'm going to continue this, and for the sake of saving time, I'm going to speed this up and finish this. When I come back, I'm going to show you a little bit quicker way to finish the end. Again, another optional material you can use that will help hold your pieces together before you clip them together with that cord end. So let me finish the braiding. When I come back, I'll show you how to finish that up. All right, now that I have the strands all braided together, I'm going to show you how to simplify the process of crimping the ends together. So you'll see all these strands are different lengths here. Depending on the thickness of your individual strand that you have braided as a bunch, that's going to affect the length at the end. So these thicker ribbons and the thicker chain, stuff like that, as you braid it, it shrinks up faster than the really thin pieces of yarn and ribbon and stuff like that. So that's why at the end you're going to end up with these varying lengths. So I'm going to begin by trimming some of these off just to make it slightly easier to get the majority of that out of the way. So that just makes it a little bit easier to do the next step. So from here, I'm going to use one of these little rubber bands. You can find these at the craft store. I bought mine at Hobby Lobby. You can even get them in the hair section. A lot of times, little girls' hair section, you'll find these, but they have different colors. Usually you can find black and clear or really colorful. at the craft store, I was able to find clear, like a nude color, black and gray. So those tend to be the 4 colors that disguise, you know, and hide the best on here. So I'm going to use the clear, and I'm just going to take it and wrap it around the end where I want to secure my 8 strands together. And that will just kind of hold it in place. You don't want it super, super tight because you want to be able to, actually I'm going to take one off. There we go. You want to be able to kind of flatten those pieces out. And if it's really, really tight, then you're not able to do that. So now that I have this, I'm going to go through and with my scissors, I'm going to trim right up by, right just below those, the rubber band there. I'm going to trim off this excess of each of the strands. If you have a thick chain, unless it's a really thin chain, you could use the scissors, but if it's a thick chain, you're going to have to use your wire cutters and either cut the chain or actually use pliers and open up a link to release the part that you don't want. Okay, see all the little pieces there. So now that I've trimmed it, I'm going to take the crimp, and this you can tell already how much easier this will be. And we're going to slide it in here. And this is the part where if you want to flatten it out some, so I may take off just one more wrap so that I'm able to widen these a little bit. There we go. But I still want them to stay in place. I'm going to slip this crimp on. Here. Again, you want to make sure you get all of your pieces in there. That's really important. I'm going to take your flat nose or needle nose pliers and crimp those, and make sure you crimp the middle part as well. I'll keep everything in place. And I actually was scooting the rubber band down right before I crimped those, so I'm able to just pull that off and it's not even there anymore. So now I have my completed braided section, and this thickness again is completely your preference. If you wanted to do, instead of 6 to 9 strands like we do in my class, if you wanted to do 12 or up to 18 strands, that's fine. It's obviously just going to give you a thicker, chunkier necklace, so that's completely your preference. So at this point, what you're going to do is attach a chain on each side, because right now obviously this is not long enough to be a necklace. So you're going to put your segments of chain on each side, and to connect those, you could open a link just directly up and just hook it on. There's a little loop here. I'm going to actually take the pliers and open a jump ring and attach it that way. I think the jump rings look nicer, so I'm gonna put the jump ring on and attach it here, close it back up. So now you have that side finished there, and we'll do the same to the other side. And let me get another jump ring. I'm going to open it up again. I always think when you're working with these really tiny jump rings that you're much better off to have 2 pairs of pliers. And you can use your round nose pliers or flat nose pliers, just anything. You don't have to purchase or have on hand 2 pairs of the exact same pliers to do that. So I'm going to close this side as well. Okay, last thing to do is decide if that is the length you want it to be. I think it's ideal for these parts here, these the cord crimps or the end crimps, to rest about right at your collarbone. So from there you would just measure the length of this and decide if that's, you know, how long you want it to be. If you need it to be shorter, you would just trim the same amount on each side so you can open a link and take off the excess chain. And then at this point, you're just going to attach your toggle clasp with the 2 jump rings. Just tuck your jump ring on, and one side of your toggle clasp, close it up. You could use a lobster clasp as well if you wanted to. And the other side, same thing. Hook it on here. Gather the T part of the toggle clasp and close that jump ring up. And now your braided fabric necklace is complete. Please visit our website at www.cnhsart.com